Great. Well, thank you all for joining us. We're here today with Niambura Mundia and Audrey Petra, although she's having some technical difficulties. These are 2020 Collaboration for Community Impact Grant recipients who will be telling us about their project. So I hand it over to you, Niambura.
Thank you, Katie. I hope you can hear me well. My name is Niambura Mundia. I am an RX CSP alumna of 2015. Same as Audrey Atumuze or Pasha. We were actually roommates at some point, so this relationship has grown, and we're actually good friends, like really good friends. So, we're going to, we said 40 minutes, right? We're going to present to you what our collaboration project was. Part of it is still being implemented, but most of it we've done. So I need to see, I don't know whether Audrey can hear me, but I'll do the introduction as she gets her internet sorted out, because she didn't have power earlier on. And so she's just getting a spot, which will allow her to be part of this. So my organization's name is called Usawa. We were founded in 2019. And we collaborated with Audrey, whose organization is called Love and Veil Ministries from Uganda. Our project was to be implemented in 3 cycles so that to enable learning experiences, meaning that in between the project, if we had things to change, we had the luxury of doing that. But I think the pandemic actually made sure that we had a lot of learning experiences, because we kept stopping and starting again, which you will see in the process of my presentation. The main objectives were to gain, I should say that Audrey works with young women from the universities to make sure that they gain skills towards employability, but also life skills in terms of how do you manage yourself as a young African girl growing in the expanse of the world. And my organization works with women work rights, and we have an event called Women Leaders Hangout, which is a quarterly event where women meet and talk about, the work experiences. And I said there she is. It's a quarterly event. So the main objectives were gain a better understanding of the needs of each target group and tailor webinars, because we both do events, webinars to make sure that the webinars we held were contextual and relevant, because the organization I am part of, which is Usawa, deals with women already in the workspace. And for Audrey, the organization, the project that we were working on deals with young girls who are in school and have not walked into the workplace. So just exchanging ideas, and also what are the learning places? How can women in the Women Leaders Hangout mentor the young girls who are in universities in Uganda? And also, how do we create, for both spaces, how do we create safe spaces for women to talk about, the hierarchies of work, power relations at work, and what that means for both demographics, the young women, but also the older women who are beyond the entry point. So those were the main objectives. So the major activities were, of course, because LUM, Love and Veil Ministries, the event is still, their monthly event, is still informative, and it's not formative, it's because they do it monthly. It's still, they have not been in places where they officially invite experts to be part of. It's usually a peer-led dynamic. So what are the ways you integrate experts and peer learning, right? So giving hands-on skills to the LUM team in curating and managing a network event, but also creating a safe space for both the context, as I said, but also because in the workspace, men hold the power. How do we make men allies to make working spaces and also colleges safe for women, and especially younger women coming into the entry level? So some of the webinars, we organized events, and some of the webinars that we organized, well, this is a series. I'll show you a poster shortly. So what women in agribusiness. So because COVID-19 had hit in, we realized that most women who used to do casual jobs and were now forced to go to the village, right? Or were now forced to do other things other than go and be a secretary or a tea girl or an intern, because most organizations let lower cadre workers go. So one of the webinars we organized is how are the young women going to take advantage of now the people needed food and needed, food delivered at their doors. How do they make sense of the distribution chain? So one of the webinars we organized was women in agribusiness, where we had experts break down, the distributive chain. And then we had women in pink collars. Again, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the jobs that were most hit were jobs in hospitality, jobs in such spaces. So women lost a lot of work. So what were the new challenges and how are women going to form a resiliency towards that? But also, women in working in male-dominated jobs, they were the easiest to be let go in terms of when a manager looked at their team and so who to expand, it was usually easily the woman. So what were the dynamics of the women that worked in these jobs? But also women in the margins. Women in the margins is people, persons with disabilities, and what were the extra concerns that workplaces or being let go of work came with. So this, as I spoke, this is the web, sorry. That's the poster of the webinars we had one, because I think we had a communication strategy where we let people know what topics we would be discussing, so that we crafted them to the context. So the first thing we did was, I think before the webinar started, this is a poster we let out, and then we let people talk up. We let women and also men give us possible questions or further concerns, so that during the 1 hour or 2 hours webinars, we were able to answer their questions rightly, right? And also make sure that the people we came up with in the expert webinars were people that spoke to the issues in depth. This is a poster we had for Mama Mboga, which I think was one of our favorites, because it was interesting to see how Africans and general women. This is I'm not ousting any man. I'm just saying that's what this is, the demographic our project was dealing with, are resilient, right? In terms of just finding other ways to earn income and keep themselves busy. So we have a podcast. It's called Swaiba. Swaiba means female friend in Swahili. We have not been able to. One of the things that I think we'll be talking about, and I think Audrey will talk about, is we did not anticipate their costs, which I think is why we have such share-out sessions, is their costs we had not anticipated, and so that affected the production of this differently. But it's one of the lessons that we're going to share here. So Swaiba, we have our first season. We're almost ending in terms of getting it out. Hopefully we are able to shoot for the second season. Audrey will touch on what we're doing to make sure that is done. But if you listen to podcasts on whether it's YouTube, whether it's Anchor, whether it's Spotify, this is us. We're still trying to get ourselves a quorum. And those are the issues that Audrey will speak about in terms of, for us, we thought about production, but there are things that we didn't look at. And Mish will talk about the plan we have in terms of, it's one thing to produce good content and content that is needed, but you need to have a strategy to put it out there, right? So I'm sure Audrey will touch on a few of those things, but yes, these are some of the episodes that we've done. Between the 2 episodes in peace and security, of course, because of what is happening in East Africa, that was one of the popular ones, but we also got asked to do, other nuanced episodes on the same, like women in Somalia asked us whether we could do the role of women in militia, well, Al-Shabaab. So we're going to do that, but also women's health and safety in the workplace. We got a really good feedback when it comes to, work people in bosses or leaders in workplaces that had not thought about menstrual hygiene and how that affects, women workers. So yes, it's been a learning process for us. I think I'll let Audrey take on the rest. I hope I don't know. I know she's using her phone because the rest of her gadgets have refused to take up internet. But yes, Audrey, if you can see this, I don't know whether you can see it. Let me know. Let me know how
I can see
it. Okay.
Nyambura, can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Okay, that's so good. I had to look for a specific spot outside my place of residence. My internet is very poor here, but I hope you can get me. Thank you so much, Nyambura, and the team that have joined us today. Greetings to you all from Uganda. I would like to begin by saying that collaborating with Nyambura was a very good experience for both of us. We both worked and learned, and the beauty in it, I think, was that when the Nyambura's organization, Usawa, I usually say organization, so there are more than one, and we ended up working with all of them. But she worked with women that are already in the marketplace, and I work with women who are students, high school and college students. And so there was a good blend there as the young women on my side were learning from the women on her side. And so I'd like to share with you the dynamics of our collaborations. Both organizations, Love Unveiled and Usawa Incorporated, that is Nyambura and her team, myself and my team, we all participated in coming up with the themes of the podcasts, the questions, and of course, mobilizing the people, our target audiences. That is, we all worked on that. But Nyambura's organization being, having the expertise in the moderation, because she was already doing similar work. She was the one who did most of the moderating for all, Usawa did the moderation. But the good thing is that two of her staff trained two of my staff actually, and we are hoping that my team will be able to participate in the moderation when we are actually doing the phase 2 of the podcast. And so that is one thing that we did. In Uganda, during our time, we had not, when we were planning dreaming and planning this collaboration, we did not foresee how COVID was going to affect everything. And so some of the things that we had on paper in terms of collaboration, we had to revise them and revisit them a bit. Because, for example, in my case, most of my audience was not where I expected them to be. The young women had to go to the villages, having closed the universities and stuff like that. But we were able to still follow through what we had planned. And like Nyambura said, we are still going on even after the 12 months we are over. Thank you. Nyambura, next slide, please.
Sorry, Audrey. There we are.
Yes. And so we had planned, Nyambura mentioned a little bit about that. When we were planning and budgeting, we focused especially on the production, and we did not put into consideration, especially the marketing and everything that comes with, having done the good content and, the webinars, design them and put them there to market them, publicize them, store them, and continue to make the story continue going on even after the actual dates of the podcasts and webinars. And so we were able to actually partner with other organizations, and these are some of them that we partnered with. Semabox helped us so much with the podcasts, and Semabox is an incubator that works with African content creators. They helped us a lot with the distribution and of course improving our content and the setting of our content, distributing it and marketing it. And this was actually not on the grant, it was not covered by the grant, but at least they were able to partner with us on that. The other partners were the Common Women Agenda, and this is a women network. It's both in Kenya and in Uganda, so it actually worked well for both of us. And it works around strategic issues on women in leadership. And so we partnered with them, and we even got some speakers from them. And so those were also helpful to us. And then, of course, Eka Africa. This was helpful when we were doing the Mama Mboga, the women in agribusiness. They came in handy, and they were able to mobilize 60 women. They were part of the women that were part of the Mama Mboga agribusiness webinar. Nyambura liked this one the most.
Because it was practical. It was really practical.
Yeah, it was, but I think also the audience kind of like touched you so much. Yeah,
This
so
is-
having done the webinars and the podcasts, I should also say alongside the webinars and the podcast, we also had a series of other, which we had not really planned, but online meetings with the team from both countries. We didn't capture it in our presentations, but our impact and outcomes were the fact that the organization, and in this case, the organization is Kusawa Incorporated, Nyambura's organization, it conducted a pre-webinar survey for the Lavenville Student Network, because for us, we had never done webinars. And actually for me, that opened my mind to so many things, because at the beginning, it was kind of complicated for my staff to, wrap their heads around the online things. But Nyambura's organization was well equipped to do that. So they did the survey with the students that I work with, specifically in Makerere University and Chambogo University. And according to the responses from the 40 young women who participated in the survey, and that is in both campuses, 79.6% indicated improvement on their job knowledge and skills needed at the entry level. And then 82% said they were better equipped to negotiate their salaries. Because, initially women in Uganda, especially the young women, they didn't know that you don't have to take what is offered when you're getting employed, especially when it is your first job. And so the webinar on the future, I think it was the one on the future of the workspace, helped them to know that you can negotiate your own salary, and you don't have to take what is offered. You can actually take home what you deserve and what you are working for. And for my young women, because the biggest percentage of these were final year students who were already in part-time employment, like they are students and working to get into employment, and so part-time employment and employees, and then full-time students. That helped them so much. They still talk about it in their groups, negotiating for their salaries. And then, of course, 62% said they felt confident with dealing with aggressive political issues, because the nature of, the submissive nature of how we are trained had to kind of be addressed a bit. But sometimes you can actually be aggressive when you're dealing with issues and negotiating individual leadership at the workspaces.
Sorry, there we are.
Thank you.
There we are.
And so we had a lot of changes, but the most significant ones were these. From the webinars and the podcasts, there's been an increased uptake of positive conversation of male allies through the podcasts. It was good for us to see the men come on board without us having to really beg them. They appreciated the idea of what we're doing, and they bought into it and they participated. And then power relations in the workspaces, which directly affect women's experiences at work, and to have men and, to start conversations like that. Yeah, I was reading exactly what is on Nyambura's PowerPoint, what we had prepared. So to have men begin conversations to do with power, the power at work. And this Nyambura was very, she participated a lot in this particular webinar, because the kind of workspaces that we were tackling in this particular case were like corporate workspaces. And so it was good to have men start such conversations and even participate in framing our questions, and even being willing to be part of our panels. I think that was a significant change, because that doesn't always happen here in East Africa. And then also the other thing which Nyambura commented a bit is that we are having more conversations in East Africa. We have had people who have weighed on having us start podcasts in other countries, in Rwanda, but specifically in Somalia, where they're asking us to at least have one Somali Muslim woman leader to speak about countering violent extremism. And of course, this is a very timely topic. I was talking to Nyambura that we should consider doing it as soon as we are able to, because of the peace and security in the region. I think some of you have heard about it. And so we can't wait to have that, and to also expand our work to Somalia and Rwanda and the other countries where some of the leaders have requested that we should consider having them in the podcast. Yes, mitigating challenges. We didn't have many, but a few that we had kind of affected us so much, because we were hoping that we could actually just follow the blueprint on our papers and do everything as we had planned. But COVID affected, especially my side, because in Uganda, we had lockdowns. As I speak, we are still in lockdown. Our universities, all schools and education institutions are all closed. They've been closed like for the past 4 months, and they had been closed before that. So almost for this whole year, Uganda has had lockdowns. And so that affected some of the activities that we had planned, especially for the phase 2 and for the season 2 of the podcast. Now, the key one that we missed with Nyambura is the fact that we had planned to actually stage a live podcast, but in a rural setting. And because of the lockdown, we couldn't do that because we had even travel restrictions. We were not allowed to travel out of our district during that time. So COVID-19 lockdown in Uganda also caused us to lose contact with the students, because when they closed the universities, the students went home, and then following them, because they go to their villages where there is no connectivity at all. So that affected us. But the good thing is that we were able to now start organizing. We organized what are they called, Zoom meetings like this one, but there was one particular one that the students were more conversant. We called Google Meet, I think. We had 2 of those. And so instead of doing real webinars and real podcasts, we had meetings of that. And we had over 50 students participating, which was very good. And then the other one is that because of the lockdown and the effects of the lockdowns and the closure of schools, we haven't yet started on season 2 of the podcast. So the setting of the season 2 was supposed to be in Uganda. I missed having Nyambura come, but we did not cancel it. We just pushed it out of Kate's 12-month time frame, and we said we'll still do it, because the good thing is that the vaccinations are being done, and we are hoping that in January, according to our president, he'll open up the economy, and then we can do the podcasts from here. We are currently piloting recordings through Zoom to mitigate the delays, because COVID situation in Uganda is unpredictable. That is true, but I think this time it's going to be predictable, because we have had countries donate vaccines, and many people are getting vaccinated. We did trial recordings for the Zoom meetings which we had, and Nyambura said we just needed to improve a bit, and then we can start recording them. Even if the lockdown is not lifted, there we would be able to do our podcasts. But all in all, we were able to keep addressing the challenges that they came by. Some of them still, of course, came on the side of the finances. Our budget was constrained, restrained, and pulled all together. But with the help of our partners and our friends and our friend organizations, we were still able to do what we had planned to do. Thank you. Nyambura, back to you.
Thank you so much, Audrey. I think I'll just to talk about everything, because Audrey, finalized at challenges. I think one of the things that we have realized is that when you get a grant like this, maximize in terms of quality, because when you maximize in terms of quality, it offers a ground for other donors or other people to come build on. And I think for us, that's why we're very careful not to roll out everything, because we could just roll out, things, without logistics and all those. But then we're very aware that if we do that, we may not get other people build on. And we practically wanted to use this collaboration grant to help both of our organizations to be better in terms of the donor portfolio, but also activity portfolio. Having said that, Audrey had spoken about the partners that we had. So among the partners that we had is that we sat down and they gave us a breakdown of, for Swaiba to be the podcast, we wanted to be the vision we had, what is required. And so they gave us like a social media strategy and a budget alongside it. So we are currently, we have written one grant, hoping we get a positive, we have written one proposal, so hoping we get a positive feedback. But because we are looking into, since we have something that people can look at and see the type of work we've done, so we are looking into making sure that even the podcast we have, at the least we reach, because at this point we do not have, a serious reach of people, but can we get 10,000 people per episode, watch it, so that we are effective. But to do that, we made sure that we have not compromised on the quality. And that's something I would want to say for other people looking into applying for the same grants. But it's also, how can we partner with other organizations? Like, how can we get the business community pay for some of these of these episodes. Like we can tell them because in terms of the money, in terms of the expenditure of production, that is already taken care of. We have done the down payment for season 2. But how do we make season 2 better in terms of approaching corporates and other businesses among the women that are in the Women Leaders Hangout and say, could you sponsor this? And is that something that is viable? So those are things we're looking into. And as I said, we have submitted proposals for the same. And like for some of these things like SGBV issues or security issues, which other alumni from East Africa are working on, are we able to reach out to them and say, do you have a fund for this as a program a program manager, and would you want to point to that? So those are the conversations we're having towards sustainability, because we believe, especially for, the meetings, the women that hang out and the Loom meetings, those ones are demand supply oriented. Like there's already they will be sustainable because people show up because they want these things. But for Swahili, it's almost like a product that you're bringing to people and telling them that they need it. So for that, we are working a little harder to make sure that it's visible. So yeah, these are our 4 ways in terms of how we are making sure it doesn't go away before people know it. And so if you have ideas, we are very open for them. But yes, that is all from me and Audrey. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both so much for that great presentation. And it was amazing to hear about how your collaboration has been going and the great work you've been doing. If it's okay with both of you, we'd love to open it up for questions. So feel free to put questions in the chat or come off mute and ask any questions you may have.
Sorry.
So Kate has a great question in the chat asking if you could share a bit more about how you created the budget for your CCI grant.
I think breaking down first, having the objectives clear so that per objective, you're able to see the activities at 4 in terms of to achieve those objectives, what type of activities or what activities would we need. So that helps you break down very precise, because if it's increased the knowledge of something, then most likely you'll have workshops, right? Or trainings. And so when you have trainings and workshops, then you know what the items of the budget will be, because you might need to pay a facilitator, you might need to hire a hall. If not hire a hall, you might need a Zoom what is it called? A Zoom subscription, right? So I think having your objectives clear, which also, of course, comes with having if you work in programs, the theory of change clear is what helps the rest of it fall. So because I think you derive your activities from your objectives, and then the activities and other things, because even when you break down your activities, you're able to see other indirect costs like mobilization, right? Like, what's the other one? Social media buying, So when you do that, I think it's easy for your budget to come together.
Thank you. There's another question in the chat. How did you go about aligning to shared objectives or goals for this grant?
Audrey, do you want to say something? I could say we had same priority areas in terms of working with women, but I'll let Audrey say this, something on the same. Audrey?
In touch. Hello, Nyambura, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I was, applied for the grant. So we had been sharing ideas. I got to know much about what she does, and she learned a lot about what I do. And so aligning objectives was naturally, because having talked about our work actually saw how they connect and the gaps that and we discussed, and then having organizations major areas of focus before we actually finally then zero collaboration that benefits Usawa Incorporated, and it also benefits Love Unveiled Incorporated generally. And so it was it just came from a series of conversations and consultations from both of us. Nyambura, you could add on from there.
No, I think you said it for the part of what we heard. Yes, you said it, because it's just to repeat what he said. I think most of it is ensuring that as individual organizations, you know where you're headed for in terms of your priorities, but also so that you're able to see, because you want to put your heart into something that is growing your organization as much as there's collaboration and co-learning. So I think be very clear about where where your organization is at and where you're headed, but also be very have consultations. I would say exhaustive conversations about the places that bring you together, right? Like just working for women does not make it clear. You have to see how the synergy happens in between the specific programs. So yes.
Thank you. If there are any other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or come off mute and ask them. We'll give it a few more moments to see if there's any other questions. While we're waiting to see any other questions come through, I'm interested to know if you could share a little bit about what inspired you to apply for a CCI grant.
Already smiling. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think the first inspiration was the fact that we both knew we could get it, because we know what CSP, like the areas of interest for IRX and community solutions. So having talked and understood our work, we kind of were sure that if we put our vision on paper and applied very well according to the guidelines, we would get it. So our deepest inspiration was, I think, the kind of faith and assurance we had that what we had in mind was well aligned with what IRX usually funds. That was the first inspiration. But then also too, the work that we both do is something that means a lot to us. And so going out to find money to actually
internet.
Make it, yeah, remember that my internet is disconnecting.
It's okay, we heard most of it. Okay. Yeah, it's what you said, and that you've been looking forward to do a project together since, I think, because we admire each other's work, but it's also that we for this, it was more strategic to what I alluded to earlier. We wanted to create something that we can build on, right? Whether it's with other US embassy, funds or other organizations, funds that are available to us because we are SCSP alumni, but also other funds that would, find the work we're doing. So we were very clear from the start that if we get this, we want to create something that we can build on, and that can allow both of us to, cross-pollinate the work we do, because it's similar in many ways, yet very different. Yeah.
Thank you. I see we have a hand up from Green Governance Zimbabwe Trust. I'm not sure who that is, but go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, thanks, Katie. It's Nyasha Frank, actually. I'm using my organization's handle. So I just wanted to find out, well done, ladies, for the work that you did and for sharing such tremendous, success stories. So I just want to find out quickly, apart from the COVID-19 challenges that you mentioned, what other challenges did you come across? Because obviously you're coming from different jurisdictions and different organizations. there are bound to be some challenges that come with collaborations. So can you just share a bit on that so that the other people that intend to apply would watch out for that? Thank you.
Well, the first challenge I think about is one, like once you get the money, you realize that there are other things that come up. So you have to be very, you have to be very disciplined, but also very deliberate in how the budget lines, are spent, right? And so because our situation had evolved because of COVID, we continuously had to engage so that we're making sure that the money is not spent in trying to mitigate the effects of COVID, but actually going to the work. And that's why part of the thing we did is, can we just pay for the production of the second season, not knowing when we will do it? Like, can that just be paid for? And then the rest of the things will come in place. So because it's tangible money, yet not too much, you need to be very careful on how you spend. So observe your budget lines. Secondly, I think in terms of relationship wise, it does pay if you respect each other, right? Because it's co-learning, and you do not, power relations are real. Like when Audrey says she's not a good moderator, but she's a very good mobilizer, right? So power relations are real. And it's easier for one of the organization to feel like they are the experts, but you have to step back, and if the point is learning, you have to step back and analyze those power relationships and make sure they're not one, break them if you can. Two, make sure they're not in the way of co-learning, right? Because if we had not done this with the Loom Ministry, there's no way we would have, and we would be curating an event for young girls in the universities in Kenya, right? So regardless of where your organization's growth is in terms of difference, be very aware of power relationships and make them work for you, because those ones are real. Audrey, you might want to add something there.
Thank you. Maybe I could talk about the fact that some of our topics were kind of
Audrey, your network is terrible.
Around, especially
I can't believe you to repeat all that.
Some of them kind of like pinched people. It looked like we were changing people's cultures and getting women to not be as submissive.
That's true.
Especially like
I don't know if you guys had her, but I think what Audrey was saying before.
No, I think you should go ahead.
It's okay. I think I
can see that it's actually not there. The network is on and off.
Yes, but I can rehash what you said. I think Audrey was talking about when you work with groups in the margins, in this case, working women, you seem to encourage, like you seem as if you're encouraging an alternative culture. So making women have hard heads, right? And so, of course, even when you have men allies, there's a pushback that you can feel. Sometimes it comes to you in your circles. That's a lesson we learned both in organizations. And that's why even in writing our application, we were very deliberate about involving men allies, because we learned that lesson earlier on in our organizations. So if you're working with people in the margins, please think through, and I say that in the margins is a broad spectrum, please be very aware of the pushback, and if you can mitigate it, be able to mitigate it in the project, other than, as an afterthought.
Thanks, Nyambura. I'm also curious, it seems like both of your home organizations were very involved in the project and that you all worked together. So I'm curious if you could tell us a little bit more about how you were able to bring both of these organizations together to collaborate on this project.
I would say because this grant is not the first time organizations, have, looked to each other for learning or a question or support, right? So even before we collaborated, we would have young girls come through for other webinars that we did, right? And even when they couldn't in school, the recordings were made available for them specifically through Audrey. And because Audrey has always known that we were looking into having an entry point. Women leaders hangout where just women from the universities are. I have been a guest speaker in her groups more than many times before. So it almost like this was the grant helped us consolidate things we had already started doing, but now in a programmatic, deliverable type of way. Yeah. So we are not, our organizations are not strangers to each other at all. Yeah, and that helped.
Great, thank you. I'll ask one last time if there's any other questions for Audrey and Nyambura. Feel free to put them in the chat or raise your hand.
Oh, I hope that means that you are really good at answering the questions, that you didn't have to ask them.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing. We really appreciate hearing about your project, and hopefully others on the call are inspired to also apply for the CCI grants, which are now open. So thank you.
Hi, hello. Kate.
Yes.
Excuse me. This is Chitu from Nepal. Hi, Nyambura and Audrey and everyone. Nice to see you all and meet you all. I just have a small question. Maybe Nyambura, you can respond. How would you think that successful, the grant as you have, you got a grant before? So how would you think could be a successful proposal? What makes what made you getting the grant? Thank you.
Okay. Hi Chitu, nice to hear your voice. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I won't call you the name I called you here. Anyway, so I think for us it's because one, our organizations have clear objectives and missions. That's one thing. So we're clear about what it is that we do. And so even when we wrote our proposal, that came out. But I don't mean to make it basic, but I think when you have a clear theory of change, what do you want to change? What's the impact? I think other people say starting with the end in mind. That helps because then everything falls in that. But also is that there's a feedback process with the IREX staff, right? So pay attention to what they're saying, pay attention to the questions they're asking and clarify, right? And don't make broad assumptions about, about your context. Because I think when you know your context, you tend to think that other people know your context as you do. So I would say be as specific, but also do not be, do not be overly ambitious. It's not a big grant. There's only what this can do. So stick to that, and perhaps I would say anyone else would feel differently. But I think for me and Audrey, having done this project to a place where other organizations are paying attention to what we did is a success, because it means that we utilized both the learning process but also the funds to make sure that it's building on something. It's not going to the drain. It's not an event. It's something that we can be built on, and that for me is, I think, perhaps what's the
Thank you, Nyambura. It's really nice. Yeah.
It's
great.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you so much. There's one other question here. about, sorry, there's a few questions that came in. Can alumni from different CSP years apply for a CCI grant? Yes. And can alumni from the same country apply? Also, yes. Yeah, so any other information about the current grant can be found on the CCI. The CLI. And you can also reach out to me or Kate with any questions. But thank you so much, Audrey and Nyambura, for sharing your amazing project and the amazing work you do. It was so great to hear about it. So thank you all for joining.
Thank
Take
you
care.
for having us. Thank you.
Bye.
Be well.
Thank you, Audrey and Nyambura.
Asante Ket. Thank you.